The snow came down in sheets that November evening in Scranton, the kind of relentless storm that made everything harder than it needed to be. I stood outside our apartment building with 2 grocery bags cutting into my palms, each one heavy enough to make my shoulders ache. The wind bit through my coat as I fumbled with my keys, my fingers numb and clumsy. I could barely feel them anymore, which seemed fitting. I had stopped feeling a lot of things lately. When I finally pushed through the door, the blast of warm air should have been a relief. Instead, it just made me more aware of how cold I had been. The apartment was dim except for the glow of the television, and there he was, David, my husband of 12 years. Stretched across our sagging sofa like he owned the place, which technically he did, or at least his name was on the lease along with mine. His eyes were fixed on the screen, barely registering my entrance. The living room looked like a tornado had passed through. Pizza boxes on the coffee table, his gym bag spilling dirty clothes onto the floor, empty soda cans lined up like soldiers along the armrest. I set the bags down on the kitchen counter with more force than necessary. The thud echoed through the apartment. He did not move. "Are you planning to help me, David?" My voice came out sharper than I intended, each word edged with exhaustion. Or should I just carry the entire grocery store in here by myself? He flinched, his eyes finally leaving the screen. "Why are you being so aggressive? I'm watching the game." He did not get up, did not even shift his weight. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The game of your life? You have been in overtime for 2 years now." His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. I turned away and started unpacking groceries, slamming cans onto shelves with more force than necessary. Behind me, I could hear the announcers droning on about some play I did not care about. This was my life now. This had been my life for longer than I wanted to admit. I worked 40 hours a week as an accountant at Henderson & Associates, a small firm downtown where I crunched numbers and fixed other people's financial messes. Then I came home and fixed everything else. Dinner, homework, laundry, bills. The endless tide of responsibilities that came with raising 2 kids in a household where only one parent seemed to be present. Ethan was 14 now, all sharp edges and silence. My son had his father's dark hair but none of his softness. He watched everything with those careful eyes, taking mental notes I was terrified to read. And Chloe, my sweet Chloe, was only 9. She still believed in fairy tales and happy endings, still thought Mom and Dad would figure things out. I wanted to keep her believing that for as long as possible, even if I had stopped believing it myself. That night, dinner was tense. I had made spaghetti, nothing fancy, just something quick I could throw together between helping Chloe with her math homework and listening to Ethan's carefully edited version of his day at school. David emerged from the living room only when I called everyone to the table, moving with the reluctance of someone being summoned to jury duty. He picked at his food, pushing noodles around his plate. "This is kind of bland," he muttered. I felt something hot and sharp rise in my chest. "Then season it yourself." Ethan looked up, his fork frozen halfway to his mouth. Chloe's eyes went wide. We did not usually do this. We did not usually acknowledge the elephant in the room. We just ate around it, careful not to bump into its massive presence. "I am just saying," David continued, oblivious or uncaring, "it could use some salt." "The salt shaker is right there." I pointed at it, my hand steadier than my voice. "It has been there every night for 12 years. I trust you can figure out how to use it." Ethan set his fork down with a deliberate clink. "Dad does not even know where we keep the salt," he said quietly. "He does not know where we keep anything." David's head snapped toward our son. "Don't talk to me like that. I am looking for work. I cannot just take any random job." "Random?" The word came out before I could stop it. "Is that what you call the jobs I do every day? Random? Are the 3 meals I cook, the clothes I wash, the homework I check, the bills I pay, are all of those just random too?" The silence that followed was suffocating. Chloe looked like she might cry. Ethan stared at his plate, his jaw working the way it did when he was trying not to say something he would regret. He got that from me. David pushed back from the table. "I am not hungry anymore." He walked back to the living room, back to his throne of cushions and avoidance. I finished my dinner in mechanical bites, tasting nothing. The kids ate quickly, eager to escape. After they disappeared into their rooms, I sat alone at the table, surrounded by half-empty plates and the ruins of another failed family meal. The next morning began like every other. I woke at 6, made coffee, packed lunches, ironed Ethan's shirt for his presentation, found Chloe's library book under the couch. David slept through all of it, as usual. He had stopped setting alarms after the first few months of unemployment. "No point," he said, when there were no interviews to get to. But that morning, something was different. I was in the kitchen making scrambled eggs when I heard his voice from the bedroom. He was on the phone, and he was talking to someone about a job. My heart did a stupid little leap of hope. Maybe this was it. Maybe he had finally found something. "Yeah, I appreciate you thinking of me, Rick," David said, his voice carrying through the thin walls. "But I am not sure it is the right fit. The salary is lower than what I was making before, and I don't really see it as a step forward in my career." I stopped stirring the eggs. The spatula hung motionless in my hand. I know it has been a while, he continued, but I have to think about my professional trajectory. I cannot just take anything that comes along. I have standards. Something inside me cracked. Not broke. Not yet. But definitely cracked. I set the spatula down very carefully, turned off the stove, and walked into the bedroom. David was sitting on the edge of our unmade bed, phone to his ear, looking pleased with himself. He saw me standing in the doorway and must have seen something in my face because he quickly wrapped up the call. Hey babe, I was just talking to Rick about a position at his company, but it is not really what I am looking for. You turned it down. It was not a question. Well, yeah, it is a logistics coordinator role. That is basically data entry. I managed a team of 20 people at my last job. I cannot take a step backward like that. 2 years, David. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, too calm, too distant. It has been 2 years. Do you know what the kids are going through? Do you have any idea what this family needs? I am trying my best, Sarah. Are you? I moved closer, and he actually leaned back slightly. Because from where I am standing, trying looks a lot like scrolling through job listings and finding reasons to say no. Trying looks a lot like watching TV while your son asks for $50 for a field trip and your daughter needs new cleats because she has outgrown her old ones. Trying looks a lot like letting your wife carry every single burden while you sit on that couch and wait for the perfect opportunity to knock on our door. That is not fair. He stood up, defensive now. You do not understand what it is like to lose a job like that. The humiliation, having to start over. You are right. I do not understand. I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to me. Because I have never stopped working. I have never had the luxury of waiting for the perfect job. I have never been able to just opt out of my responsibilities because they were not dignified enough. So what do you want me to do? His voice rose. Take some garbage job just to make you happy? I want you to do anything. I want you to contribute to this family in some way that does not involve sitting on that couch and judging the meals I cook or the way I fold your laundry. I want our kids to see that when things get hard, you fight for them, not hide from them. Ethan appeared in the hallway. I did not know how long he had been standing there, but from the look on his face, it was long enough. Our eyes met for a brief moment, and what I saw there broke my heart. Disappointment, resignation. The look of a kid who had already written off one of his parents. He turned and walked toward the front door, grabbing his backpack from the hook. I am going to school early, he said flatly. The door closed behind him with a gentle click that somehow sounded louder than any slam. Chloe was crying in her room. I could hear her muffled sobs through the door. David and I stood there in the wreckage of our morning, and I realized something with perfect clarity. This was not going to change, not unless I made it change. Later that day, after I had calmed Chloe down, gotten her to school, and dragged myself to work, I had lunch with my best friend Lena. She took one look at my face and ordered me a glass of wine with my sandwich. That bad? She asked. He turned down another job this morning. I wrapped my hands around the wine glass like it might anchor me, told the guy it was beneath him. Lena's expression hardened. She had never liked David, not since year 5 when he forgot her birthday party that I had been planning for weeks. Sarah, men do not change because we ask them to. They change when they have no other choice. As long as you keep carrying the weight for both of you, he is going to let you. I do not know what else to do. You leave. You take the kids and you leave, and you let him figure out what he lost. I shook my head. I cannot. The kids need stability, and what if he cannot manage? What if everything falls apart? Baby. Lena reached across the table and took my hand. Everything is already falling apart. You are just doing it slowly, piece by piece, day by day. At least if you leave, you get to control how it breaks. She paused, then added with a meaningful look. By the way, last week at the firm mixer, there was a man asking about you, Robert from the Parker account. Very handsome, very single. He wanted to know if you were available. My cheeks flushed. Lena, I am married. Are you though? Really? She squeezed my hand. Because from where I am sitting, you have been single parenting for 2 years. You have been single breadwinning for 2 years. The only thing David contributes is his presence on that couch. I could not argue with her. I finished my wine in silence, tasting nothing but the bitterness of truth. That evening, I took the bus home instead of driving. My car was in the shop, another expense I was juggling, another thing I had to handle alone. The bus was nearly empty, just me and a handful of tired-looking people staring at their phones or out the windows. Then a man got on, maybe in his 50s, dressed in a work uniform from the electric company. He sat a few rows ahead of me and immediately pulled out his phone. I was not trying to eavesdrop, but in the quiet of the bus, his voice carried. Hey honey, he said, and his tone was so warm it made my chest ache. I am on my way home. I know I am late again, and I am sorry. I picked up that dessert you like from the bakery on 5th, the one with the raspberry filling. He listened for a moment, then laughed. You do not have to thank me. You put up with my long hours and my bad jokes. The least I can do is bring you dessert. Another pause. I love you too. I will be home in 20 minutes. He hung up and smiled at his phone for a moment before putting it away. The satisfied smile of a man who knew he was going home to someone who mattered. I looked away quickly, staring at my reflection in the darkened bus window. When was the last time David had called me to say he would be late? When was the last time he had brought me anything, done anything to show I was more than just the person who made his life convenient? The woman staring back at me from the glass looked exhausted, thin, faded. Like I was slowly disappearing, becoming transparent, until one day I would be completely invisible and no one would even notice. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Can you pick up milk on the way home? No, please. No, thank you. Just an assumption that I would handle it, like I handled everything else. I looked at that text for a long time. Then I looked back at my reflection. When did I become this person? This ghost who moved through her own life serving everyone else's needs? What would happen if I just stopped? If I just disappeared for one day, would anyone notice me? Or would they only notice what I did? By the time the bus reached my stop, I had made a decision. It was small. It was simple. But it felt like the first real decision I had made in years. Saturday morning arrived cold and bright. I woke before sunrise, which was nothing new, but this time I did not go through my usual routine. I did not start the coffee maker. I did not pull out ingredients for breakfast. I did not check the hamper to see who needed what washed. Instead, I took a shower. I did my hair properly, not just twisted into a hasty bun. I put on makeup for the first time in weeks. I dressed in clothes that actually fit, that made me feel like a person instead of a function. David was still asleep, snoring softly, dead to the world. The kids were sleeping too. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I found a yellow sticky note in the kitchen drawer and wrote 7 words in clear capital letters. I have things to do. Home tonight. I stuck it on the refrigerator where no one could miss it. Then I turned off my phone, grabbed my purse, and walked out the door. The morning air was crisp and clean, and my footsteps on the pavement sounded impossibly loud in the early quiet. I had no plan. No destination. I just walked, and with each step, I felt a little lighter. I went to a coffee shop I had always wanted to try, the one with the big windows and the comfortable chairs. I ordered a latte and a croissant, not the cheapest thing on the menu, not the most practical, just what I wanted. I sat by the window and watched people walk by, and I read a book I had bought months ago but never opened. No one needed me. No one was calling for Mom. No one was asking me to find their socks or fix their breakfast or solve their problems. It was the most peaceful I had felt in 2 years. Around noon I called my father. Thomas Avery was 72 now, a retired postal worker who had raised me by himself after my mother died when I was 10. He answered on the second ring. Sarah, everything okay? I am fine, Dad. I just needed to hear your voice. There was a pause, the kind of pause that comes from a parent who knows their child too well. Where are you? You do not sound like you are home. I am not. I left this morning. I left David a note. I just needed a day to myself. Good. His voice was firm, approving. About damn time. That surprised me. Dad? Sarah, I have been watching you kill yourself for that family for years now. You think I do not see it? You think I do not know what it looks like when someone is drowning? He sighed. Your mother did the same thing to me once. Did I ever tell you that? No. It was about 8 years into our marriage. I had lost my job, got laid off from the factory. I was depressed, angry, felt like less of a man. So I just stopped. Stopped looking for work, stopped helping around the house, stopped being a husband and a father. I just sat in front of the TV and felt sorry for myself. I had never heard this story. What happened? Your mother left for a whole weekend, did not tell me where she was going, just left a note that said she would be back when she felt like coming back. I had to take care of you, had to figure out the cooking and the cleaning and the bedtime routine. It was the hardest 2 days of my life. And when she came back, she sat me down and said, Tom, you can be a man or you can be comfortable, but you cannot be both right now. I need a partner, not a child. If you want me to stay, you need to act like my husband again. What did you do? I got off my ass and got a job. Took the first thing I could find, which was the post office. Worked there for 35 years. It was not glamorous, but it put food on the table. And more importantly, it gave me back my dignity. Your mother taught me that sometimes the most loving thing someone can do is refuse to enable you. I felt tears sliding down my cheeks. I am so tired, Dad. I know you are, baby, but being tired is not the same as being defeated. You are stronger than you think. You are your mother's daughter. We talked for another 20 minutes, and when I hung up, I felt different, clearer, more certain. I spent the rest of the afternoon at the public library, then walked through a park I had not visited since the kids were small. I watched ducks paddle across a pond. I sat on a bench and just breathed. My phone was still off. Whatever chaos was happening at home would still be there when I got back. For once, it could wait. The sun was setting when I finally turned my phone back on. 37 missed calls, 16 voicemails, 42 text messages. I did not read or listen to any of them. I just headed home. The apartment building looked the same as it had that morning, but I felt like a different person walking into it. When I opened the door, the smell hit me first. Something burned. Something sour. Something was definitely wrong with the trash. The living room looked like a disaster zone. The kitchen was worse. Every dish we owned seemed to be dirty and piled in the sink. The counters were covered in spills, crumbs, and what looked like the remains of several failed meal attempts. The trash can was overflowing. Before I could fully process the destruction, I heard footsteps running. Chloe crashed into me, wrapping her arms around my waist and sobbing. "Mom, where were you? Dad broke everything." Ethan appeared in the kitchen doorway, his expression carefully neutral, but I could see the relief in his eyes. "Mom." "Hey, baby." I hugged Chloe tighter, meeting Ethan's gaze over her head. "I am sorry I worried you." "We were not worried," Ethan said, too quickly. Then, more honestly, "Okay, we were worried." Dad was freaking out. He tried to make breakfast and somehow set off the smoke alarm. Twice. David emerged from the bedroom, and I barely recognized him. His hair was standing up in several directions. His shirt was on inside out. He had what looked like pancake batter on his jeans. His eyes were red-rimmed and wild. "Sarah." His voice cracked. "Where were you? Why did you turn off your phone? I thought something happened to you." I gently detached Chloe and looked at him. Really looked at him. "I left you a note. It said I would be home tonight. I kept my word." "But where were you? What was so important?" "I was taking care of myself, something I have not done in a very long time." He gestured helplessly at the kitchen. I tried to handle things, but everything just kept going wrong. The kids needed stuff, and I did not know where anything was. I tried to cook, but nothing turned out right. I tried to do laundry, but the machine made a weird noise and I was afraid I broke it. "Sarah, how do you do all this every single day?" "I just do, David, because it needs to be done. Because our family needs it. Nobody asks me how. Nobody thanks me. I just do it." He looked at the mess around us, seemed to really see it for the first time. "I did not realize." "No, you did not." I moved past him into the kitchen, surveying the damage. Part of me wanted to start cleaning immediately, to restore order to the chaos. But I did not. Instead, I found some leftover Chinese food in the fridge, divided it onto plates, and microwaved it. "This is dinner," I announced, setting the plates on the table. "I am not cooking tonight." We ate in silence. The food was mediocre, reheated and sad. Nobody complained. After dinner, I still did not clean. I just took Chloe to her room, helped her get ready for bed, and read her a story like I always did. She fell asleep holding my hand. When I came out, Ethan was in his room with his door closed. David was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the mess like it might spontaneously organize itself. I went to our bedroom, took off my shoes, and lay down. A few minutes later, David appeared in the doorway. "Sarah, we need to talk." "Yes, we do. Tomorrow." "But..." "Tomorrow, David, I am too tired tonight." He left, and I heard him start picking up in the kitchen, the clatter of dishes and running water. It was the first time in months I had heard him clean anything. I closed my eyes and fell asleep to the sound of my husband discovering what I did every single day. Sunday morning, I woke early again. This time, David was already up. He was in the kitchen, and from the smell, he was attempting to make breakfast. I walked in to find him standing over the stove, concentrating hard on scrambling eggs. "Morning," he said, not looking up. "I am making breakfast. It might not be great." "That is okay." I poured myself coffee and sat at the table, which he had cleared of last night's mess. The kids appeared, drawn by the unusual sight of their father cooking. We all sat down to slightly rubbery eggs, toast that was a bit too dark, and bacon that was somehow both burned and undercooked. "Thanks, Dad," Chloe said carefully. Ethan just nodded and started eating. After a few minutes of awkward chewing, I set down my fork. "I need to say something, and I need everyone to listen." 4 pairs of eyes turned to me. I am exhausted. I have been exhausted for a long time. I have been carrying this family by myself, and I cannot do it anymore. Not like this. David opened his mouth, but I held up my hand. "Let me finish. Ethan, Chloe, I want you to hear this because it is important for you to understand. I do not want you to grow up thinking this is what marriage looks like. I do not want Ethan to think it is okay for a man to sit back and let his partner do everything. And I do not want Chloe to think being a woman means sacrificing yourself until there is nothing left." Chloe's eyes were wide. Ethan was staring at his plate, but I could tell he was listening. I turned to David. "I love you. I have loved you for 12 years. But I cannot live like this anymore. I cannot be the only one working. The only one parenting, the only one keeping this family afloat while you wait for some perfect job that may never come. Sarah, I am not finished. My voice was steady, calm, and that made the words hit harder. You have 1 month, 30 days to find a job, any job. It does not have to be perfect. It does not have to be glamorous. It just has to be something. Something that shows you are willing to fight for this family. If you cannot do that, then I will make a decision about our marriage. If you cannot do that, the room was completely silent. Even the refrigerator seemed to hold its breath. Are you saying you will leave me? David's voice was small. I am saying I will not live like this anymore. I will not teach our children that this is acceptable. I will not disappear into nothing while you figure out your pride. I looked at him directly, and I saw him finally see me, not Sarah, who does everything. Not Sarah, the convenient solution. Just me, a person who was tired and done and out of second chances. I will find something, he said quickly. I promise. I will do better. I have heard that before. This time I need to see it. I stood up. I am going to my dad's for the afternoon. When I come back tonight, I want you to have sent out at least 5 job applications. I do not care what they are for. Just prove to me that you are trying. I grabbed my purse and my coat. As I reached the door, Ethan called out, Mom? I turned. I am proud of you. His voice was quiet, but it carried. I had to bite my lip to keep from crying. Thank you, baby. I spent that afternoon with my father, telling him everything. He listened without judgment, offered advice without pressure, and reminded me that I was not just a wife and mother. I was also Thomas Avery's daughter, and Avery's did not quit, but they also did not let people walk all over them. When I got home that evening, David showed me his laptop. He had applied to 7 jobs. 2 were in logistics, 1 was in warehouse management, 1 was an assistant manager position at a retail store, and 3 were coordinator positions at various companies. None of them were perfect. All of them were beneath what he used to do. I am trying, he said simply. I see that. I did not hug him. Did not tell him I was proud. I just nodded. It was a start. But it was only a start. The following Monday, I went back to work with a lighter step. My boss, Mr. Henderson, called me into his office mid-morning. I had been working there for 6 years, and he had always been kind, if distant. Sarah, I wanted to talk to you about a position that is opening up. Senior accountant. It comes with a significant raise and some management responsibilities. I think you would be perfect for it. I stared at him. Really? You have been carrying this office for years. You are reliable, competent, and frankly, you are the person everyone else comes to when they need something done right. He smiled. I should have promoted you a long time ago. I am sorry it took me this long to recognize what you bring to this team. I felt something warm bloom in my chest. Recognition, appreciation, respect. I would love to accept. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Please, call me James. We are going to be working together more closely now. When I told Lena at lunch, she squealed loud enough to make people stare. This is perfect, see? Good things happen when you stop letting people take advantage of you. It is not over yet, I warned her. David has 30 days. And if he does not follow through? I took a sip of my water. Then I will be making enough money to support myself and the kids on my own. Lena raised her glass. To you, to finally putting yourself first. We clinked glasses, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was heading in the right direction. The next 3 weeks were tense. David was trying. I had to give him that. He went to interviews. He woke up early. He helped more with the kids and the house, though his help was still clumsy and inconsistent. He burned dinner more often than not. He shrank Ethan's favorite shirt in the wash. He forgot to pick up Chloe from soccer practice once, and I had to leave work early to get her, but he was trying. Then, with 1 week left on my ultimatum, he came home with news. I got a job offer. I looked up from where I was helping Chloe with her homework. What kind of job? Warehouse supervisor. It is at a distribution center about 30 minutes from here. The pay is okay. Not what I was making before, but it is decent. He paused. I start next Monday. Are you going to take it? He looked at me for a long moment. Yes, I am going to take it. Something in his eyes had changed. The defensiveness was gone. So was the self-pity. He just looked tired and maybe a little scared, but also determined. Okay, I said simply. That night after the kids were in bed, David and I finally had the conversation we should have had 2 years ago. I was ashamed, he admitted. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the place where so many arguments had happened. When I lost my job, I felt like such a failure, like I had let everyone down. And the longer I went without working, the worse it got. I was afraid if I took something that was not as good as what I had, it would prove I was moving backward. That I was less than I used to be. But you were willing to let me be less? The question was not angry, just honest. He flinched. I did not think of it that way. I just thought you were stronger, that you could handle it. Being strong does not mean I should have to handle everything alone. I know that now. He reached across the table, and after a moment, I let him take my hand. I know I have a lot to make up for. And I know one job offer does not fix 2 years of being a terrible husband and father, but I want to try, if you will let me. I looked at our joined hands. His was calmer, warmer. Mine was still shaking slightly. I do not know if we can come back from this, David. I do not know if I can forget what these 2 years felt like. I am not asking you to forget. I am just asking for a chance to do better. I pulled my hand back slowly. Then show me. Do not tell me. Show me. David started his new job the following Monday. The first week was hard for him. He came home exhausted, not used to the physical nature of the work. But he came home. He worked his shift, and then he came home and tried to be present with the kids. He was not perfect. He still forgot things. He still defaulted to me for decisions about the kids. But when I pointed it out, he listened. He adjusted. He tried. Ethan started talking to him again, cautiously at first, then more openly. Chloe stopped tiptoeing around the house like she was afraid everything might explode. As for me, I started my new position at work. The raise meant I could put some money into savings for the first time in years. It meant I could breathe a little easier when the bills came. It meant I did not lie awake at night doing math in my head, figuring out which utility I could pay late. 3 months after my ultimatum, Lena and I met for lunch again. She looked at me critically. You look different. Different how? Like you are actually here, like you are not just going through the motions anymore. I thought about that. I feel different. I feel like I am a person again, not just a function. And David? He is still working. He got a small promotion already, assistant manager. He is proud of it, even though it is still not what he used to do. I paused. The other night he thanked me for dinner. He has never done that before. He just thanked me, like it was not something he was entitled to. And how do you feel about him? That was the complicated question. I do not know yet. I am not as angry anymore, but I am also not sure I can trust him the way I used to. Maybe that is okay. Maybe we are building something different now. Does it have to be with him? Lena asked gently. You are making good money. You are independent. You could leave and be fine. I know. And that is what makes this different. I am staying because I am choosing to, not because I am trapped. If he slides back into old patterns, I will know I can leave. I have proven that to myself. That was the truth. I was not the same Sarah who had carried groceries through a snowstorm and quietly swallowed her resentment. I was not the woman who had disappeared into her own life. I had found myself again, and I was not willing to lose her. 6 months after everything changed, I was standing in front of the bathroom mirror getting ready for work. I looked at my reflection and saw a woman I recognized. She was tired, because life was still life, but she was not defeated. She was not invisible. There was a yellow sticky note on the mirror. I had put it there months ago, right after I first left for the day. It said, I have things to do, home tonight. I had kept it as a reminder that I mattered, that my time mattered, that I was not just a service others used. David appeared in the doorway, already dressed for work. Morning, I made coffee. Thank you. Are you working late tonight? Probably, we have a big client meeting. Okay, I will pick up the kids and start dinner. Text me if you need anything. It was such a simple exchange, the kind married couples had every day. But for us, it was revolutionary. I smiled at him in the mirror. I will. After he left, I stood there for another moment, looking at that yellow sticky note. Then I carefully peeled it off the mirror and put it in my wallet. I did not need it on the mirror anymore. I carried that lesson with me everywhere now. The truth was, David and I were not the same couple we had been 3 years ago. That couple was gone. The woman who had silently suffered and the man who had silently taken were both different people now. We were learning how to be partners instead of roommates. We were learning how to respect each other instead of resenting each other. It was not perfect. Some days were still hard. Sometimes I caught glimpses of the old David, the one who wanted to coast, who wanted someone else to carry the weight. But now when I saw that, I said something. I did not swallow it. I did not excuse it. I named it, and we dealt with it. And on the days when he slipped, when he forgot or took me for granted, I had something I did not have before. I had options. I had my own money, my own career, my own strength. I was not trapped by necessity or fear. If I stayed, it was because I chose to. If I left, it would be because I chose that too. That power, that agency, changed everything. At work that day, James called me into his office again. Sarah, I wanted to give you a heads up. The partners are considering making you a junior partner in the next year. Your performance has been exceptional, and frankly, you are already doing the work of a partner. Junior partner, at Henderson & Associates. A year ago, I would not have dared to dream that big. Thank you, James. I appreciate your confidence in me. You have earned it. You have always earned it. I am just glad we are finally recognizing that. When I got home that evening, dinner was already on the table. It was spaghetti, David's signature dish now, the only thing he could cook with consistent success. The kitchen was relatively clean. The kids were doing homework at the table. Mom. Chloe jumped up and hugged me. Dad said you might be late, but you are not. Meeting ended early. I kissed the top of her head and looked at Ethan. How was school? Fine. I got an A on my history paper. That is wonderful, baby. David was setting out plates. There is garlic bread in the oven. Should be ready in a minute. We sat down together, all four of us, and ate dinner. It was not fancy. It was not Instagram-worthy. But it was peaceful. It was functional. It was a family figuring out how to be a family. After dinner, David cleared the table without being asked. Ethan helped load the dishwasher. Chloe wiped down the counters. I supervised homework and signed permission slips. Later, after the kids were in bed, David and I sat on the couch together. Not touching, but close. We were watching a show we both liked, something we had not done in years. During a commercial, he said, "I'm sorry." I looked at him. For what? For all of it. For wasting 2 years. For making you feel invisible. For putting you through hell, because I was too proud to do what needed to be done. He turned to face me. I do not think I really understood what I put you through until you left that day. When I had to do everything myself, when I realized how much you were carrying, I felt sick. I felt like the worst person in the world. You were not the worst person. You were just lost. I was selfish. There is a difference. He took a breath. I know I do not deserve another chance. I know I probably do not deserve you. But I am grateful every day that you are still here, that you are giving me the opportunity to be better. I did not respond right away. I thought about the woman I had been, the one who would have immediately reassured him, who would have minimized his failings to make him feel better. But I was not that woman anymore. I am not staying for you, I said finally. I am staying for me, because I choose to see if we can build something better. But David, you need to understand something. If you ever make me feel that way again, if you ever take me for granted like that again, I will leave. Not because I hate you, but because I love myself too much to disappear again. He nodded slowly. I understand. Good. We went back to watching TV, and after a while, he reached over and took my hand. I let him. It felt different than it used to. Less automatic, more intentional. Like we were choosing each other instead of just existing next to each other. The weeks turned into months. David kept his job and even started taking night classes online, working toward a certification that might help him advance. He was not just working to keep his job anymore, he was working to build something. Ethan started opening up more, talking about his day, asking David for help with things. One evening, I overheard them talking in Ethan's room about college and careers and what it meant to be a man. David was telling him that being a man meant showing up, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. I stood outside the door, listening, and felt something I had not felt in a long time. Hope. Chloe flourished with the stability. Her grades improved. She joined the school play. She laughed more, worried less. One day she told me, I am glad you and Daddy are happy again. We are working on it, sweetheart. I can tell. He smiles more now. You both do. Out of the mouths of babes. On our 13th wedding anniversary, David surprised me. He had arranged for my father to watch the kids, and he took me to dinner. Not anywhere fancy, just a quiet Italian place downtown. But he had made a reservation. He had planned ahead. Over dessert, he pulled out a small box. Inside was a simple bracelet, silver with a small charm in the shape of a key. I wanted to get you something that meant something, he said. This is a key. Because you are the one who opened the door when I was locked in my own head. You gave me a key to a better life, even though I did not deserve it. I turned the bracelet over in my hands, feeling the weight of it. David, you do not have to buy me things. I know, but I wanted to. I wanted you to have something that reminds you that I see you, that I appreciate you, that I am grateful for you every single day. I put the bracelet on, and it caught the light. Thank you. No, Sarah, thank you, for not giving up on me even when you should have, for being strong enough for both of us until I could find my own strength. For teaching our kids what it means to have boundaries and self-respect. You saved this family. You saved me. I felt tears prickling at my eyes. You saved yourself. I just made you realize you had to. Then thank you for that. We held hands across the table, and I thought about all the versions of us that had existed in 13 years. The young couple full of hope. The struggling parents trying to find their footing. The broken pair who had stopped seeing each other. And now this, whatever this was. Two people choosing to rebuild. It was not a fairy tale. It was better than a fairy tale. It was real. A year after my ultimatum, I stood in my father's living room, helping him organize some old photo albums. He pulled out a picture of my mother, young and beautiful, holding me as a baby. You look like her, he said. I wish I had known her better. She would be proud of you. The way you stood up for yourself, the way you taught your kids what self-respect looks like, that is exactly what she would have done. I looked at the photo, at my mother's confident smile, and I felt a connection across the years. Tell me more about when she left you for that weekend. Dad sat down, holding the photo album. It was the hardest thing she ever did. She told me later that she cried the entire drive to her sister's house. She was terrified I would not step up, that she would come back and everything would be worse. But she was more terrified of what would happen if she stayed and nothing changed. What made you change? Desperation. At first, I could not lose her. I could not lose you. But then, something else happened. I realized I had been living like a victim of my circumstances, instead of someone who could change his circumstances. Once I saw that, once I understood I had power over my own life, everything shifted. That is what happened to David, I said slowly. He was stuck in victim mode, and I had to stop rescuing him so he could rescue himself. Exactly, Dad squeezed my hand. The best thing you can do for someone you love is refuse to enable their weakness. It is not cruel, it is the opposite of cruel. It is believing they are capable of more. I hugged him tight. Thank you for telling me about Mom. It helps. She is still with you, baby girl. I see her every time you stand your ground. Driving home that evening, I thought about all the women who had come before me. My mother, my grandmother, all the women who had to learn the hard way that love was not the same as surrender, that caring for others did not mean erasing yourself. I thought about all the women who were where I had been a year ago, exhausted, invisible, carrying everything alone, and I wished I could tell them what I had learned. You cannot save someone who does not want to be saved. You cannot change someone who does not want to change. But you can change yourself. You can choose yourself. You can draw a line and say, this far and no further. And maybe they will rise to meet you. Maybe they will do the work. But even if they do not, you will be okay, because you will have yourself. That was the lesson. That was the gift. When I got home, the house was quiet. David had put the kids to bed and was reading on the couch. He looked up when I came in. How is your dad? Good. We looked at old photos of my mom. The one who left your dad for a weekend? That is the one. He smiled slightly. I am starting to understand why you had the courage to do what you did. It runs in the family. Courage or stubbornness? Both. Definitely both. I sat down next to him, and he put his arm around me. It felt comfortable now, not obligatory. Like we had earned the right to this closeness, instead of just assuming it. David, can I ask you something? Anything. Are you happy? Not with me or the kids or the house, just you, yourself. Are you happy? He thought about it for a long moment. Yes, I am. I am doing work that matters, even if it is not glamorous. I am being a father to my kids, instead of just living in the same house as them. I am trying to be a real partner to you. For the first time in years, I feel like I have a purpose beyond just getting through the day. Good, that is all I ever wanted for you. What about you? Are you happy? I considered the question honestly. I am happier than I have been in a long time. I am not invisible anymore. I matter, not just as someone who does things for other people, but as myself. I have a career I am proud of, I have kids who respect me, and I have a husband who is learning how to be a partner. Learning being the key word. We are all learning, that is the point. We sat in comfortable silence, and I realized this was enough. Not perfect, not a movie ending, but enough. Real and flawed and ours. 2 years after everything changed, I attended a women's leadership conference through work. During one of the sessions, the speaker talked about boundaries and self-advocacy. A woman in the audience raised her hand and said, "But how do you set boundaries without destroying your relationships? I am afraid if I ask for what I need, I will lose everything." I found myself raising my hand. The speaker called on me. "I think we lose more by not setting boundaries," I said. A few years ago, I was drowning. I was doing everything for everyone, and I had completely lost myself. I was angry all the time, resentful, exhausted. My relationships were already suffering because I was suffering. Setting boundaries did not destroy my family. It saved it. It gave everyone, including me, a chance to be better. After the session, several women approached me. They wanted to know more about my story. They wanted to know how I found the courage. I gave them my email and told them if they ever needed someone to talk to, I was here. One woman, probably in her 30s, had tears in her eyes. "I am where you were. I am drowning, and I do not know how to stop." "Start small," I told her. "Start by taking one day for yourself. See what happens. You might be surprised to find that the world does not end when you stop holding it up." She hugged me, and I felt the full circle of it. Someone had helped me. Now I could help someone else. That night, I told David about the conference, about the women I had talked to. "You should write about it," he said. "Write about what?" "Your experience. What you went through, what you learned. There are probably thousands of women who need to hear it." I had never thought about that, but the idea took root. Over the next few months, I started writing, not for publication, just for myself. I wrote about the years of drowning, about the day I left, about the ultimatum, about the slow process of rebuilding. When I finished, I let Lena read it. She cried through the whole thing. "Sarah, you have to share this. You have to let other women read this." "I do not know. It is so personal." "That is exactly why you have to share it, because it is real." Eventually, I posted it on a blog anonymously. Within a week, it had thousands of views. Women from all over the country, all over the world, were commenting, sharing their own stories, thanking me for putting words to what they were feeling. One comment stuck with me. "I have been where you were. Your story gave me the courage to have a hard conversation with my husband. Thank you for reminding me that I matter too." That was when I understood the true power of what had happened. My story was not just about me. It was about every woman who had lost herself in service of others. It was about the radical act of choosing yourself. 3 years after my ultimatum, our family looked completely different. Ethan was applying to colleges, a confident young man who had learned from both his parents, their failures, and their growth. Chloe was thriving, a happy child who knew she was loved and valued. David and I were partners, real partners. We still had bad days. We still argued. But we argued as equals, not as adversary and victim. We both worked. We both parented. We both took care of the house. It was not always 50-50, but it was fair, and we were both trying. And me? I was a junior partner at Henderson and Associates. I had money in savings. I had friends. I had hobbies. I had a life that extended beyond just taking care of others. Most importantly, I had myself. One evening, I was cleaning out my wallet and found the yellow sticky note. "I have things to do. Home tonight." The paper was worn now, creased from being folded and unfolded so many times. Chloe wandered into the room. "What is that, Mom?" "This is a note I wrote to myself a long time ago, on the day I decided to choose myself." "Can I see?" I handed it to her, and she read it carefully. "This seems important." "It is the most important thing I have ever written." "Can I keep it?" she asked, "for when I am older and need to remember?" I looked at my daughter, this bright, confident girl who would never lose herself the way I had. I had made sure of that. "Yes, baby, you can keep it. But remember, you should never need it, because you are going to grow up knowing that you matter, that your voice matters, that you should never disappear to make someone else comfortable." She hugged me tight. "I know, Mom. You taught me that." After she left, I sat there feeling lighter than I had in years. The note was gone, passed on to the next generation. But I did not need it anymore. I carried that lesson in my bones now. That night, David and I sat on the porch together, watching the sunset. It was a quiet moment, the kind we had learned to treasure. "Do you ever think about that day?" he asked. "The day you left?" "Sometimes. It was the scariest thing I have ever done. It was the best thing you ever did, for both of us." I turned to look at him. "Do you mean that?" "I do. You were drowning, and you were taking me down with you. Not because you wanted to, but because we had fallen into such a toxic pattern. You leaving broke that pattern. It forced me to see what I was doing, what I was not doing. I am glad you see it that way now. Sarah, I want you to know something." He took my hand. "If you ever need to leave again, if I ever slip back into being that person, I want you to go. I do not want you to stay out of obligation or fear or habit. I want you to stay because you choose to, every single day. And if you stop choosing me, I will understand. Because you have taught me that real love is about giving someone the freedom to leave and hoping they stay." I squeezed his hand. "I am not going anywhere, not today. That is all I can ask for." We sat there as the sun went down, two people who had almost lost everything and had fought their way back. It was not the life I had imagined on our wedding day 13 years ago. It was better. It was honest. It was earned. The woman who had carried those grocery bags through the snow, who had swallowed her resentment and erased herself, that woman was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who knew her worth. I was Sarah Miller. I was a mother, a wife, a partner at an accounting firm. I was a daughter, a friend, a woman who had learned to save herself, and I was no longer invisible. I looked at the bracelet on my wrist, the one with the key charm, and I smiled. David had said it was a key to a better life, but the truth was, I had always held that key. I had just needed the courage to use it. As the last light faded from the sky, I thought about all the women out there who were where I had been, tired, invisible, drowning. And I sent them a silent message across the miles. You are stronger than you know, you are worth more than you believe, and you have the power to change your life. All you have to do is choose yourself. Just once. That is where it starts. The rest comes after.